going to call the Finance Committee to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the February 4th minutes.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Financial update, Ms. Bartlett.
Thank you. You have the year-to-date financials with you for February 28th, 2021. Right now, we do have a surplus. We have a number of areas that this is contributing to. So not only do we have savings in health insurance. We have a lot of people that are changing coverages and then also decreasing coverages because their children are aging out. We're seeing a big bulk of that this year. We're also seeing savings in, we have quite a list of open positions. And then during this whole COVID pandemic era, there's a number of people that only received 2/3 of their pay up to 12/31 of last year. And then they decided they still didn't want to come back and now are on a leave of absence. So we have that amount of savings. And we also have people that before we went back in person, they were getting paid because they had to stay home because their child was in a different district that was remote. So again, there's all these areas that we're seeing, and if they continue, we're going to see a larger surplus for this year. But right now, it's probably about an $800,000 surplus we're projecting. Again, special ed is always an area we talk about. It's actually doing okay at this point. But food service is the other issue. It's still trending about a $600,000 deficit.
Okay. Mr. Watson?
So the 800,000 surplus, does that include the revenue?
Revenues were actually, we had to decrease revenues by $300,000 on the Medicaid. So I've not only had to absorb the $300,000 on the expense side, but also the $600,000 on for food service as well. So that's why we had to go into a budget freeze because of that. But right now, our revenues are pretty much stable.
Mr. Committee, do you have a question? No? When will we be pretty comfortable with the total amount of, probably April?
Yeah, it's usually around April or
Okay.
May, because that's when we actually see how special ed is looking as well too. Because, again, like we've always said, it's a moving target, so sometimes these kiddos will either stay where they are or they'll move around, or what we all like to do is have them come back. So it's April or May is where we kind of see that.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Is that it? Any questions for Mrs. Bartlett? Thank you for bringing that up, Linda. Next item on the agenda is request for deauthorization. Kyle, point of order. Do we have to call those by line, or can we just deauthorize the whole list?
You can just do the whole list.
The whole list. All right, so in your backup is a list of deauthorized projects, totaling amount of $632,174.57. So Linda, can you explain what the deauthorization does and how it works?
Right now, City Council authorizes all our CIP projects. We then conduct the project is finished, and now there's a balance that needs to be deauthorized because it's still considered as part of our debt calculation. So deauthorizing it gives us more room now to authorize more projects.
Okay. So we have deauthorization of HVAC upgrades, Gonic windows, Spalding High School stair treads, doors and hardware upgrades, William Allen roof, district-wide lighting upgrades, and the Spalding High School floor. Again, totaling amount of $632,174.57.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional conversation? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mrs. Bartlett. Next item on the agenda is the FY 2022 budget review. I only have a couple questions on this one. Kyle, under school board services, 533,200. We have negotiations up quite a bit to 30,000, but I don't know who's on the rotation for negotiations.
We have two contracts next year. It's teachers and food service, I believe, right? Linda?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then the next one in subsection superintendent's office, 2320, 533,100, legal.
What chapter are you in, by the way?
I'm in finance, top page, second subsection says 2320 superintendent's office. It says we budgeted 24K and we spent 46. Can you put a light on that?
You're in legal, you're in 533,100?
Yep, in legal.
Is that related to ERS flooring, Linda?
That's correct.
Yeah. So we're still in, again, just to give history, Mr. Toddy, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they moved, or we moved into the ERS school, I believe it was 2014-15 school year. Almost immediately, we had floor failure. It's been in litigation since I believe the year before I became the superintendent. It is continuing to go. I think the mediation date begins, we've had a lot of COVID delays, is actually next week. It's the 11th to start a mediation process. So keep it posted.
All right, so that explains why the number's up from 24 to 32. Okay. If you look at the overall budget from 2021 to 2022, it looks like we had a cost savings of $22,000 already. Is that correct, Linda?
Yes, and it's due to two projects coming offline for debt for principal and interest.
Okay, gotcha. So what I'd like to ask the superintendent to do is to go through this with a fine tooth comb, similar to like we did in the other ones, and see if you can reduce that number by $20,000. If you can't, it's fine, but that's the intention.
Excuse me. Paul, is that your motion?
Yes.
I'll second
Like-
that motion.
I think that we've all gone through the lines, and unfortunately, you know, finance doesn't have a lot to offer, but if there's something to take from everywhere, I'm happy to try to do it. And if the superintendent comes back and says he can't find it, we'll review it then, but I'm tasking him to work with his administrative team to see if there's somewhere in here we can make $20,000 in cuts.
Are you still in the finance tab?
Mm-hmm. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Financial items from personnel. We should cover the,
So it would be the costs
the three,
associated with personnel, and then also the reduction in instruction. Do you have that number?
So it'd be a net of $52,000 cut.
a net $52,000. So I can just make the motion for the $52,000 reduction in personnel. Everyone understands where that came from? We talked about that? Okay. I'll make the motion to reduce the personnel committee's line by $52,000.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then we have to, and we're not doing that in building, right? Because that came out of instruction. We talked about moving that to, right, okay. From building, we have to do the amendment for the reduction in CIP, correct? No, because we're not.
No, it's fine.
We didn't have any expenditures in building as a review, right?
No, the budget was as presented.
Right, okay. So we don't have any financial items from building. I would like to go on record that Mr. Toddy did not only meet the goal, he exceeded the goal. Again, guy shows up like a rock star. Thank you, Mr. Toddy. For 5-year, we didn't have a lot to bring to the table yet because we're still going through all the open items. We've talked a lot about logistics and where the city's growing and not from the GIS study. We started talking about personnel losses. So We also talked about technologies, and there's been a lot of option items, but nothing's been championed from 5-year to finance, correct? Am I missing anything? Okay, I don't think so either.
No.
So, is there anything in public comment? Oh,
Actually, could we go back to the FY '22 budget?
absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna do it under other, if that
Oh,
works.
okay, all right.
We can-
I'd like to make make a motion to increase, but I can't make a motion.
Right.
Adequacy aid revenue, we need to add $332,978.
So that's the actually aid that you just got updated from the state, correct?
Yes, that's they're going to, right now, they dropped our free and reduced numbers, and they said that they're gonna go back to the 1920 school year, so that's where the $332,978 comes into play.
All right, and we need to add that to our what line?
Our
Revenue.
Revenue.
Adequacy aid.
Got it.
So I'd make the motion to increase our revenues by 332,978 as outlined by Mrs. Bartlett.
Great. And is there a second?
Monday, we did it.
Thank you, Mr. Munn. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So, we had no public comment, that was under other technically, right?
Yes, I have some other.
You sure?
So, Mrs. Bartlett, with all of our committees' conversations tonight and the increase in our revenue, how much are we now over the tax cap?
You need an quick math.
No, I don't think you understand what we're working with here.
Okay.
$1,310,000.
So, with our retirement fund, right, that we are trying to, we've had to put money in because of the retirement deficit, not because of our own planning, but because of the reality we're faced with. I'm wondering if we then now go back to administration and say, let's get us to be $1 million over the tax cap. So that's a reduction of $310,000,
Well.
more than where we are now. That's the point I'm bringing up.
Right, so I think there's a way to do this, and we've done it in the past where we give them two options, because you've got to be cognizant of how the system works, right? We can present a budget, and at the end of the day, city manager can cut whatever he wants. The bottom line is the bottom line. He can go, yep, take it all off, or don't. So I don't want to get to the point where we're getting, I think what we did today was pretty efficient. We still have 2 more weeks of meetings to look at this. Let's let them get through this first, and then we reassess. I understand what you're trying to achieve,
I
but
just want them to scramble is what I'm trying to do.
I totally understand, and I appreciate you trying to be forward-thinking on that. Linda, the total amount of money owed to New Hampshire retirement is 1.2 approximately?
No, just a little over $1 million.
Just a little over $1 million, so we're getting close. I would like to tell New Hampshire retirement that we'll give them $100,000 a year for the next 10 years, because I don't care. I mean, the reality is, they're not gonna dispense $1 million next year. We can't legally do it, but it's ridiculous that we have to play this game. And the state built a system that's completely out of balance, and they're not picking up anything on the tab, which is mind-boggling to me. But I think forcing taxpayers to take a hit like this in a year like this is terrible timing. And as much as I understand the system was built way before I got here, I still don't like it. It doesn't change the fact we're still legally obligated to do it, but I'd like to tell them, no, we can't, but I want to. So, be cognizant of that, but, that $1 million is what's really hurting us. If you take that off the table, we did a really good job getting real close to where we needed to be. We would have been all right. So, we're stuck between a rock and a hard space. Again, like we said earlier, less of two evils. But I think I'm really proud of what we've gotten done. We started 2-3, now we're 1-3 with everything we're getting from the state and the allocation and the reductions. We're doing a good job. We're doing the best we can, so we should be proud of that. So, I don't think we should do that yet. Is that fair, Matt?
That's fine.
Okay.
So, obviously, when they bring back, what we look at next time, obviously, it's a discussion point.
Right, then we can make some more assessments. Is everyone cool with that? Great. If we have nothing else, I need a motion to adjourn. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, sorry.
Kind of a point of order, do you need to push this up to the full board next week?
I don't think so, because we do.
Historically, we have.
We
We've
do.
done a full encompassing budget with what the full cuts are.
Did we just adjourn?
Yeah, I guess, just to make sure, Linda,
We didn't quite go
correct me if I'm
through
wrong. We move it to the full board,
We can vote
for
that down
next
now.
week.
Yep.
We have a special board meeting that's
On the 18th.
on the 18th, right? And so that would be the meeting where the last of the last things happen with us, because by March 25th, we have to submit our budget finally to the city council.
Right.
So we really have two opportunities. We have next Thursday and then Thursday after that.
Right. And my thought, Matt, was not to push it forward until we heard back from them what they could do inside those quantified information.
Well, technically, isn't the budget in the committee, so now we need
We
to
gotta
put the
push it to
committee
the
to the board.
You're right. So are we, do we adjourn or not?
Nope, no, go for it, yeah.
Fantastic. So let's table that for a second. Matt, you want to make a motion?
I'm not on the committee.
Well, I'll make a motion that the budgets are as
What do you,
presented
Max?
with the reductions being requested be presented now to the board next week
For first
For
review.
first reading.
for first reading,
For first reading, I'll second that.
Should we give the full dollar amount of reduction,
which
In that
Linda
motion?
has as,
184.5?
Well, on the expense side is 375,000, and then on the, an increase in revenues of 332,970.
All right, so we have a motion. I'll second it. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Now you can,
Now, we have a motion and a second. We'll take it up. We don't have to re-motion second, right?
no, now you can do your motion to adjourn, right?
A motion to adjourn,
you know, say, you know, plug that.
second. Is there a motion?
Yes, aye.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, we're done.